Brené Brown's Daring greatly explores the transformative power of vulnerability. She challenges the belief that vulnerability is a weakness and instead argues that it is the key to living a meaningful and fulfilling life. By embracing vulnerability, people can develop stronger connections, build resilience, and foster innovation in both personal and professional settings. Brown, a research professor and expert in shame and vulnerability, presents findings from years of study that reveal how fear of vulnerability leads to disconnection. Many people avoid being vulnerable because they associate it with rejection, failure, or embarrassment. However, suppressing vulnerability often results in missed opportunities, strained relationships, and a lack of fulfillment. She introduces the concept of scarcity culture, where people constantly feel they are not good enough, smart enough, or successful enough. This mindset fuels perfectionism, fear of judgment, and emotional barriers that prevent individuals from taking risks. Overcoming this requires a shift in perspective, understanding that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness but a source of strength. Vulnerability is essential for deep and meaningful relationships. Many people struggle to open up due to past experiences of rejection or hurt, but Brown argues that true connection comes from being authentic. When people allow themselves to be seen for who they truly are, they build trust and intimacy with others. Shame plays a major role in preventing vulnerability. Brown defines shame as the fear of disconnection, the belief that if people knew the truth about us, they would reject us. Unlike guilt, which is tied to actions, shame is tied to identity. She emphasizes that shame thrives in secrecy and silence, but by confronting and discussing it, individuals can break free from its grip. One of the most important concepts in the book is the idea of wholehearted living. This means embracing imperfections, accepting oneself fully, and recognizing that vulnerability is a necessary part of growth. People who live wholeheartedly practice self-compassion, cultivate gratitude, and focus on connection rather than fear. Brown also discusses the role of vulnerability in leadership and workplace culture. In many professional environments, people fear failure and avoid taking risks. However, great leaders and innovative companies foster a culture where vulnerability is encouraged. When employees feel safe to express ideas, admit mistakes, and take risks, creativity and collaboration thrive. Parenting is another area where vulnerability is crucial. Many parents want to protect their children from discomfort, failure, and rejection, but Brown argues that shielding them too much can hinder their resilience. Instead, parents should model vulnerability by showing their children that imperfection is part of life and that it's okay to struggle. She introduces the concept of the arena, inspired by Theodore Roosevelt's famous speech about daring greatly. The idea is that life is about showing up, taking risks, and being seen, even when failure is a possibility. Avoiding the arena out of fear of judgment or rejection means missing out on true engagement with life. Brown acknowledges that vulnerability requires boundaries. Being open and honest doesn't mean sharing everything with everyone. Instead, vulnerability should be reserved for people who have earned trust and who support growth. Learning to recognize safe spaces for vulnerability is key to maintaining emotional well-being. Criticism and judgment are inevitable when stepping into vulnerability. Brown warns against listening to the cheap seats, people who criticize without taking any risks themselves. Instead, she encourages focusing on those who are also in the arena, striving and struggling alongside you. The book also explores the difference between vulnerability and oversharing. While vulnerability strengthens connections, oversharing can sometimes push people away. Brown emphasizes that true vulnerability is about authenticity, not seeking validation or unloading emotions irresponsibly. A major takeaway from the book is that courage and vulnerability are inseparable. People who achieve great things, whether in relationships, careers, or personal growth, do so by facing uncertainty in taking risks. Playing it safe may protect against failure, but it also limits possibilities for joy, connection, and success. By the end of Daring Greatly, Brown provides practical strategies for embracing vulnerability in daily life. She encourages readers to challenge the fear of imperfection, practice self-compassion, and step into discomfort with courage. Her message is clear: the willingness to be vulnerable is what makes life truly rich and meaningful.